Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar, which will discuss the future of work and establishing a digital HQ. First, I want to do some introductions. My name's Anna, and I'm an experienced architect as part of our Slack services team.
I'm Nitin Kapila. I'm a Senior Success Manager, High Touch, India.
Before we jump into today's session, I'm going to take you through a few webinar housekeeping items. Please remember to submit your questions using the Q&A pod. We'll try to answer as many as we can. We have also added some helpful resources for you to download today, and a recording will be sent out to you via email following this webinar. And please note that all the widgets throughout the webinar are customizable, so they can be moved around and expanded if you like. Great. So in terms of the agenda, this webinar will take you through the foundations of establishing a digital HQ and best practice for collaborating in Slack with your team. We will also take you through the pillars of Slack's new Digital First Toolkit and how by following these guardrails, you can cultivate a high-performing team culture.
Anna, with this new era of digital offices, everything has changed, right? It's no longer about working from homes or offices, but employees are asking for flexibility to work whenever and wherever. And this has increased the productivity and at the same time, making it easy for the employees. Now, what do you have to say about that and how Slack plays a critical role in the future of work?
Great question, Nitin. Well, the data on flexibility is clear. It's really become an employee expectation. 76% of employees want location flexibility where they work. 93% want schedule flexibility when they work. This is not about remote work. Most people have a preference for a hybrid model with some in-time in the office, and the benefits are clear. Those with flexibility report 33% higher productivity and twice as good a work-life balance. Schedule flexibility is even more impactful. It has the positive influence on every attribute of the employee experience, including 6 times better scores on feeling good about stress and anxiety. For many, the pandemic era has shifted our schedules from 9 to 5 days of meetings in the office to longer days with even more video meetings. People are really burning out. Flexibility and creating an agile way of working means redesigning how we work, using the time we have together with intention while giving people more time for heads down, value-driven, focused work.
And what about getting back to where we were? Do you think things are going to be the way they were pre-COVID situation?
Getting back to the way things were is something I continue to hear time and time again, especially while many organizations are struggling with employee sense of belonging and connection and really establishing that culture. I'm hearing from most customers that the solution is to mandate some sort of like 2 to 3 days in the office and the others at home to provide a hybrid working arrangement. The answer to creating connection and agility within your organization is not really about ensuring people gather in a physical space. Research shows that the key to building connection is transparency and two-way conversation. People who believe their leadership are transparent are twice as likely to be excited about the future of their company and 50% less likely to leave. Organizations that invest in technology see higher employee experience scores across all dimensions, including much higher scores on productivity, sense of belonging, and even overall job satisfaction. And to achieve transparency requires collaboration tools that make two-way communication possible. And this is where Slack comes in. The office isn't really dead, but digital is your new headquarters. Leaders are embracing this moment to change and are attracting, engaging, and retaining top talent. They're really building out their competitive advantage. A core tool in rebuilding an organization for the future of work is the use of what we call a digital HQ. It's one of your best tools for a number of things. Breaking down silos, bringing your people together across teams, time zones, physical spaces, you name it. Embracing flexibility and also automating work for everyone. It's not about the seating charts anymore. The digital HQ is what will enable you to organize people around common goals, projects, and initiatives to really drive results. Now, Nitin, some organizations have questions around Why can't we just use what we're using and just add work from wherever and whenever to it? Why do we need to use a tool like Slack?
Because simply bringing our current way of working into digital world it isn't just cutting it. How we have been working online isn't the way to go. And we have seen so many recent thought pieces say and show the exact same sentiment. The idea that the only way to work are being backed up in emails or in back-to-back meetings is exhausting. From one end of the spectrum to the other, people have gotten used to these ways of working as the only way of working. But we know it's truly broken, right? Think about being buried in emails from the minute you go online. Everything is just partial view of what's happening. Conversations might live in different email threads, maybe even in some team chats. Nothing from knowledge to communication to tools is organized. It's all over the place. And we know this is the case working in a little computer we call Teams. Managing conversations and information becomes incredibly difficult. Nothing is happening in one place. But being in back-to-back meetings isn't the solution. How many of us hardly gets a break to eat alone, do any actual work, the creative thinking, when all we are doing is from one video meeting to the other? I've seen people's calendar, it's nuts. And we are so tired at the end of the day that I don't actually feel like I've accomplished anything. But this idea that knowledge, communication, tools are disconnected, it remains the same. Again, this idea that an asynchronous way of working via emails or a synchronous way of working via meetings is the only way to work isn't true. So we are coming into the world saying only Slack offers this intentionally digital first way of working. It's not just about emails or meetings, it's about building the bridge between asynchronous and synchronous and offering so many other ways of working on this spectrum of collaboration. From things like making it easier to search for the information and people, to breaking out the inbox and connecting your conversations internally and externally in a channel, to this new tool set of now breaking free from meetings, giving people alternatives to sync live with their colleagues. It's not about no meeting Fridays. We all know that it doesn't work. All of a sudden, your 5-day work feels like 4 with all your meetings now, Monday through Thursday. It's all about offering an alternative, a way to say, maybe we just don't have a meeting at all, or there's another way to feel connected, yet still have work be flexible and inclusive. Hannah, why don't you tell us more around how we can utilize the value of Slack that brings on the table with its digital first approach and create a high performing team culture?
Sure, thanks, Nitin. We all know that the future of work is people-centric and digital first. When I say people-centric, I mean organizations need to shift away from that C-suite centric to people-centric approach. It's really about making work fit better for all people, not just a select few. Digital first means intentionally moving away from an office first mindset to a digital first mindset by investing in technology to connect your employees. How are organizations making this change? Well, redesigning work is about a number of things. Leading with trust through flexibility, making more inclusive work for all types of employees, and fostering connection, even when you're outside the walls of a physical office. So when we think about it, it's flexible, it's inclusive, and it's connected. Those are the themes that I'm going to talk through today. They're the pillars of a successful digital first approach to work. Can anyone else relate to this? Back-to-back meetings, lots of meetings blocking up your day-to-day calendar. I remember before I joined Slack, just feeling so frustrated that I was spending all my time in meetings rather than actually doing value-add focused work. When Slack was redesigning the digital HQ, we didn't want to just take the existing ways of working in an office and replicate that in a digital environment. We wanted to radically change how we collaborate, leveraging the opportunities that we have with digital tools. The answer to unlock the benefits of flexibility you're going to need to kill some unnecessary meetings and shift to asynchronous work is your digital HQ. What meetings could you be replaced by? Posts, for example, in a team or a project channel? Could you record videos instead of asynchronous department all-hand meetings to give people more control of their own schedules? Or when you gather, how can you use that time to really foster human connection? Do you come together for in-person team meetings or gatherings on a regular but predictable basis? Because human connection really is important, as well as flexibility. Nitin, some of my customers mentioned that they miss quick catch-ups or what some may call water cooler moments with their colleagues, not the kind of planned meetings that we have over Zoom, but the one-on-one over a quick coffee while heading out to a lunch break or things like that. A quick catch-up that was the answer to an even bigger problem. I am sure a lot of our Slack users in this webinar today would love to hear about how Slack's digital-first approach to work is taking care of this. What is Slack's answer to this?
To be honest, even I miss those moments. And the answer is huddles. Now, there are some teams that have adopted and love huddles, and others that I talk to don't even realize it's there. So if you are already a huddle convert, bear with me while I get everyone else speed. Now, huddle is the equivalent of rolling over your chair in the office. That's what some of you here have told me. You can start a huddle in a DM or a channel and then add additional people if required to the conversation. It's all transcribed, and we continue to build this out, such as with video capabilities that will be coming soon, of course. We have found that the average one-on-one huddle is about 10 minutes, and given the average scheduled meeting is 30 minutes. Now, we really believe that using huddle rather than scheduling meetings is giving you back time in your day every day. Now, huddle saves our users time typing back and forth in solely written messages. The use cases we have found include incident management or troubleshooting through a problem. I know a lot of teams that will throw questions into their team channels, open and huddle and see which of their colleagues are free to jump and support. It's great for getting clarity on a quick question without needing a full meeting back. Right? Taking walk and talk meetings is also easy through mobile huddles as well. Lastly, it's a great example of the open door policy of office hours, when leaders can make themselves accessible for a quick check-in. Anna, there's another very cool feature. I love that has helped a lot of my customers share updates, ideas, regular check-ins, and at the same time, cutting down on the calendar blocks, giving everyone flexibility. Why don't you introduce our attendees today to this cool feature?
Sure. Similar to huddles, I've actually seen a lot of organizations really embracing clips, and others that aren't aware that this is there or is even being released. So clips allows you to record a quick audio or video message in a DM or in a channel. What are clips for, you may be thinking? Two top use cases that help teams move fast and cut down on meeting times are the ability to record a quick product feature update, maybe sharing your screen to post an update in channel, a leadership update, thanking a team member. And personally, I send audio clips all the time as I just get a bit sick of the slowness of typing, and it's a really quick, efficient way to communicate. Now, if clips are not being readily used in your organization, this can often be a difficult one to start. I would recommend everyone gives it a go. I know it can be a bit uncomfortable first, but you will find that for things like complex presentations, updates, and thoughts, you can really get your key messages across much clearer in a clip than through written communication. And once you start, others will follow. It's always the way. Ask your leaders to start posting their weekly updates using a clip, for example, or replace your team stand-up with like async clip updates. We're now going to introduce you to some of the other cool features that are readily available in Slack and really loved by our users. Starting with the first is scheduled send. So scheduled send unlocks the ability to set a specific date and time when you want to send a message. This is especially important for teams that work across time zones, executives who are planning, say, large org-wide announcements, or anyone who wants to be more effective at planning messaging outside of office hours.
Right. And you can also use Workflow Builder to take your team stand-up async. So rather than joining a live daily or weekly stand-up to go through everyone's update, why not trigger a message at a certain time every week asking for your update? That is faster. Create greater transparency on what everyone is doing. And if you're sick or missed the stand-up, you aren't missing out. That leaves your meetings to be focused on the key and important information or celebrating success. In my team, we have a workflow that is triggered every Monday morning at 9 a.m. to ask what was the highlight of your weekend, what are your priorities of the week, and anything that you need help with. Slack's Workflow Builder is a tool that already exists in your Slack, so no integration is required. It may seem a little daunting at first, but there is absolutely no actual coding involved. Really, anyone can quickly learn or even teach themselves to build workflows. With workflows, you are essentially able to customize Slack to fit the work you're trying to accomplish. At the end of today's session, we will take you through how to access Slack's Workflow Builder, what is involved in building workflow, and provide you with some great examples to get started. Another tool that you can use is ReactG Channeler. Now, this is not Workflow Builder. This is another Slack created app that you can install on your Slack in order to automatically route documents for review and approvals. So for example, if you are working on a change request and that needs to go to a certain group to approve, you can automatically send it using emoji reactions. So have a think about what other messages, documents, or approvals you may need in your workflow and end-to-end processes, the handoff that are created, and whether this could help your team to speed up your agility. So, Anna, tell me, how do you empower your team to embrace flexible working?
Great question, Nitin. Well, one of the Slack features I love for this is using my Slack status. So whenever you step away from Slack to grab lunch or even take a week off or focus on a task for maybe a few productive hours, you can use your custom Slack status to really manage your coworkers or your team's expectations and embrace flexible working. Your Slack status is also an easy way to share what you're working on or whom coworkers should contact in your absence. So Slack comes with 5 default choices for status, which you can see up here on screen, including in a meeting, out sick, on vacation, and your Slack admins can also tailor to fit your team's precise needs. For anything else, you can create your own custom status that says exactly what you want your team to know. Maybe that's on a deadline that you're slow to respond, or that you've stepped out for a coffee. Each status can be up to, I think, 100 characters long and feature any emoji of your own choice. It's really easy to set up your status in Slack. On your desktop, all you do is click on your name in the upper left-hand corner of the sidebar, as you can see on screen here, and then select Set a Status. Or on our mobile app, you tap the U option on the bottom tab bar and then edit your status directly from there. Another really good way to embrace flexible working with your team is timed reminders to engage in things like healthy work habits, such as drinking water, stretching, or taking a short work. And it can really help your team who may be used to working in an office stay well and healthy while working from home. This is a great example of using a workflow, which you just spoke about, Nitin, to really encourage flexible working practices and a healthy work-life balance. A great use case for this is creating automated break reminders. These can be set every day or on a given day of the week, where a message is posted into a team channel, reminding everyone to take a short break, like you can see here on screen. And finally, one more way you can embrace the power of asynchronous work and use Slack to share updates is through weekly roundup comms, so that your team know what they need to be across for the week and any actions they need to take. Sometimes we have to take a step back and think that text isn't always the most effective way to get important information across. In Slack, you can get really creative with your internal comms and these async updates using engaging formats like videos, Giphies, podcasts, and slide decks. And because Slack is really for everyone, people can leave questions or ask questions or leave comments, and also use reacties to really indicate how your content's being received. The next pillar we're going to talk to, which is really essential in establishing a successful digital-first approach to work, is inclusivity. So when we think about inclusivity, we think about transparency, and transparency is what builds connection and trust. We used to think about the office as the center of work, with digital tools being kind of secondary. However, now it's the reverse. Digital is really your headquarters. And creating that culture of transparency and inclusion is so important, so that your people are empowered to do their best work, and it really cultivates that great employee experience. So now what I'm going to do is take you through the Slack features that can help you support you to build a transparent and inclusive digital HQ. First up is channels. So it may seem kind of basic, but starting with the right channel strategy is so important to give you the foundations to create a strong team culture and enable that agile way of working. Increasing coordination and cross-functional transparency, it keeps your teams on the same page and decreases your sprints and communication timelines, eliminating things like massive email threads and time-consuming meetings that we spoke about earlier. It also brings all your talent together, reduces context switching, and enables you to stay in the state of flow. If you set up your channels correctly, you should never need to send an email again. In fact, you probably won't believe it, but at Slack, we rarely send emails ever. It also helps you stay focused. So some channels you may need to stay up to date with and check frequently, whereas others you may only check maybe once or twice a week. And it helps you prioritize your work based on topics rather than like what's at the top of your inbox in an email. Another feature is our bookmarks folder, which is great. We released bookmarks last year, and I love it. As you're setting up your channels, thinking about like your folder structure and the information that you need everyone to be across, a great way to do this is to use bookmarks. Of course, you can still pin important messages in channels and view all of your files as you could before, but being able to build folders is a real game changer in collaborating in channel. It enables quick access and better collaboration to files for your teams. Another great way to get to know your colleagues at work and to build that culture of inclusivity, which is essential to a digital HQ, are social channels. It's pretty common for teams to have channels dedicated to discussing interests like running, movies, music, you name it. Even though they're not strictly work-related topics, these sorts of conversations happen informally inside companies anyway. And having them in Slack helps build community and cohesion at work as everyone learns a bit more about one another. And with remote work here to stay, organizations need to be even more intentional about how they spark that connection, both inside and outside their walls. And diversity and inclusion, as we know it, is core to cultivating that great employee experience. Slack, employee resource groups, and social channels provide a space for people to connect, to celebrate, and to discuss important causes that they're passionate about. According to Forbes, with loneliness and isolation reported as the largest concerns amongst our remote workers, anything from a coffee channel that shares the best local roasters to a dogs channel where everyone can share, pictures of their dogs and their canine companions. Social channels are really a great way for us to connect and find a common ground on mutual interests that bond people throughout a company. And we have a lot of social channels here at Slack. Another one of Slack's great use cases for inclusivity, which we see used with a lot of customers as well, is new hire onboarding. So making new hires feel welcome in an organization and really equipping them with the enablement and support they need is core to creating that culture of inclusivity. New hire onboarding with Slack enables new joiners to ask questions, search for answers, and learn about team context and history. It can be really easy to forget to give a new team member access to a specific tool, or to provide them with helpful information about the company culture, or to even make sure they're aware of all of the policies and procedures they need to know. Specifically on smaller teams and remote teams, this can particularly play a role or happen quite often. With Slack's Workflow Builder, you can create an automated onboarding message for new joiners, where the new team member is taken step by step through a reviewed process that contains everything they need. It speeds up the onboarding process as they don't need to wait on someone to point them in the right direction, and at every step is time completed. As they move through the process, new messages are triggered, and if they're missing access to any Slack channel or have questions about anything in particular that they come across, they have a quick link in the message itself to the person they need to connect. It's so easy and really good to follow. Now I'm going to hand over to Nitin, who's going to talk about connection, which is the last pillar essential to building out your digital HQ.
Thank you, Anna. So Slack is a connective tissue that brings us together. The speed and agility that comes with the transparent communication in the channels drive alignment, fuel collaboration, and create connection, regardless of the time zones. Now, I want to take you through some of the features and the way that Slack can help you build that connection tissue in your digital headquarters by bringing your people, your tool, and the information together in one place and connect and get the work done. Now, the biggest shift a digital headquarters brings is that you now have one place for people to collaborate and take actions. Slack does this by breaking down communication silos, not only internally, but also externally with the customers and external partners. With Slack Connect, you have a space to delight customers and develop authentic relationship with partners by meeting them where they already are in Slack. With Slack Connect, you collaborate more efficiently, reach business outcomes faster, and build long-term relationships that unlock the growth. All of that while keeping your data secure with Slack's enterprise-grade security features and compliance standards. Let's take a look how we can do that. Slack Connect also speeds up communication with the partners. As you can see, operations teams have seen a 2x decrease in turnaround time for responses from partners. Marketing teams typically see a 50% decrease in turnaround time for reviews and approvals, and biz dev teams have closed company acquisitions 2x faster, saving a lot of time, of course. Slack Connect enable you to build rapport with them because quality relationships aren't built by emails, they are built by conversations. And with Slack Connect, communication is easier, more direct, and more casual. And this is why we see wealth and investment firms using Slack Connect to set up channels with their tier 1 clients, marketing teams collaborating with all their vendors and third in Slack Connect to coordinate a launch. Now, so we have now talked through your channel strategy and how to make that really powerful. We have talked through workflow builder, automations, but now the last piece of the puzzle to really drive an agile way of working and efficiencies in Slack is through integrations. To establish your digital headquarters connective tissue, you need to enable your people to have an access to the tools and workflows they need to connect with people to get effectively the work done. Starting with Outlook, and of course, the ability to see your calendar in Slack, respond to the events. And there's a particular problem that we reflect on during Workday. Adopting new softwares improve the way in which we work, but more tools means more windows and tabs, more distractions. In our state of work report, 68% respondents told us that more tools make for a better workplace, but they came at a cost. At least 30 minutes per day is spent while switching between them. Slack platform streamlines your tools and workflows so that they are all in one place, and that lifts the mental load of jumping from app to app. When you're able to quickly find, share, and act on information across tools, you can stop juggling tabs and stay focused on more meaningful work. Slack makes your tools work better by letting you integrate industry-leading softwares and custom applications right in Slack. Bring the right tools and information to your team in a channel to reduce context switching and free up your value time. Your tools house important context and information in separate spaces. Knowledge that you need to get the work done. Sharing information in Slack moves all that useful context out of the browser tabs and into channels where your entire team can see and connect. Slack can also help you build a culture of inclusivity and employee connection by automating connection between new hires, current employees, and even long-time team members to facilitate a remote culture. And this can be done by using Slack Donut app. I literally love this app. Building connections and a great employee experience in your digital headquarters is important to motivate your team and foster a good team culture. Disco is a culture platform for remote teams that can be added from the Slack app directly. Disco enables you to collaborate value-driven work, foster team appreciation, and measure engagement around the company culture. Create a culture of transparency with your leadership, top of mind updates using Slack clips. Now, this is a great way to break down the barriers between leaders and their teams. Be transparent with objectives to create shared clarity, and most important, build connections and meaningful relationship with your team members. At Slack, our leaders often post top of mind clips highlighting areas of focus for the particular week and way the team need to rally together as a collective to meet our goals. Another one is Ask Me Anything channels on Slack. And they are also a great way to increase transparency and a two-way communication between execs and employees within your organization on important topics and questions. It actually creates a safe place where employees can reach out to ask questions or flag a concern and give leaders an opportunity to respond in an open public forum to create an open, transparent, and culture of connection. We have an Ask Me Anything exec channel here at Slack, which establishes trust and boost morale, of course. Also, empowering people to do their best work cultivates a great employee experience. I want to take you across one of Slack's most powerful tools at your team's fingertips, which we discussed earlier as well, and we call it Workflow Builder. Before we jump any further, I want to make sure all you know how to access Workflow Builder. In Slack, if you click on the menu in the top left corner that says your workspace name, select Tools from the drop-down and then Workflow Builder. Let's take a look at the different triggers currently available in Workflow Builder. First, the shortcut button. And this is the lightning bolt icon at the bottom or left of your message composer in Slack. The button opens a menu of options, including any workflow specific to that channel. You will know that a channel has at least one workflow that's been custom made for that channel if the lightning bolt is blue. Otherwise, it's just white. Next, you can figure a workflow to start when someone new joins the channel. Maybe you want to welcome message automatically to be sent to them, prompting them to introduce themselves, or maybe the message can share helpful context about content of the channel. Third, the workflow can also kick off when someone reacts to a message using a specific emoji. You can choose which emoji will trigger your workflow. We have seen this trigger come in handy in channels where people ask the same questions all the time. You can set a workflow that's an automatic response based on which emoji you place on that particular inquiry. This means You're saving time by not typing out the same response over and over again. Fourth, now these last two are the new triggers. The workflow can now start at a designated time or date in the future, and you can make it recurring too. This is super helpful for the things like quarterly feedbacks, weekly status updates, or daily team stand-ups. And the last but not the least, you can trigger workflow from an external tool notification in Slack. For example, a new incoming support ticket, incident, or tweet. We have seen a lot of people using forms to standardize processes and to make sure that the relevant details are collected. We have also seen teams use forms to collect and post peer recognition, as well as collect feedback in a structured way. Also, we have seen scheduled triggers that help teams remember to share status updates. Now, since we have recognized these as popular use cases, there are actually pre-built workflows for each of these that you can tweak to customize and publish in minutes. And here they are. The idea here is that you don't have to start from scratch. I believe there are currently 40 and more are coming. 14 templates are there, more are coming. You can select the use cases that best matches your need, make a tweaks to customize it, and publish more quickly than building it up from the ground. There are two ways to access pre-built templates, either from the same workflow builder dashboard that pops up when you first access the tool, or from the Slack website itself. Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending today's webinar, which hopefully provided you with some actionable takeaways as to how you can build a digital headquarters so that your team can thrive in a new way of working. And now, me and Anna will take time to answer your questions.
Hi, everyone. That brings us to the end of the live content that we wanted to go through today. And now we're going to be taking some questions. We have been getting so many questions. Thank you so much. And we've been picking out a few that we thought would be great to cover today. Just to introduce myself, so I'm Stephanie Hoopal. I'm also a success manager based out of Sydney and work very closely with my colleague Nitin, who was presenting the session today, and Anna, who will be hosting the Q&A with us. Nitin would be here, but he is currently actually just had to duck out to jump on a plane because we have India Week, Slack India Week happening this week, which is very exciting. So awesome, Anna, thank you so much for that presentation. That was absolutely fantastic. And we got some really great feedback coming through and some really interesting questions that I thought would be great for us to talk about. The first question was around, I guess, what you started the webinar on, which was around employees want flexibility around obviously office times and wanting to work from anywhere. But what about the point of view of the employers and the companies? You know, I guess what's the rationale for them wanting to provide some of these, I guess, benefits and provide this flexibility to their employees?
Sure, thanks, Steph. It's a great question because obviously us as employees want, hybrid ways of working. And actually at Slack, we've got something called the Future Forum, which is a consortium that helps companies make transformations necessary to drive in this new way of working. And they've done a lot of research on kind of the why and why companies need to set their employees up for success in this hybrid kind of digital world. And from an employee standpoint, there's a number of reasons why they kind of need to shift their thinking from the office-centric kind of traditional approach. And one of those is just expectations from employees in the market. And a lot of companies are moving to this way of working. And if they don't, they may see attrition or their employees moving elsewhere. So it's a big consideration when it comes to attracting talent and also retaining talent within an organization. And it really is that expectation within the market. So I think we're seeing a lot of companies change their tune and really looking to bring in things like Slack to really drive that digital HQ first approach and to create a place where employees can thrive.
Awesome. Thanks, Anna. And we had quite a lot of questions come through around huddles. And I guess people are starting to wrap their head around huddles versus Slack calling versus if I'm using, Zoom for video conferencing or Teams, etc. Could you just help clarify for people at Slack, where do we recommend using huddles and the benefit of huddles versus maybe some other calling features? And in particular, when it comes to, I guess, scheduled meetings versus not, etc. as well.
Sure, it's a great question, and oftentimes I like to use the analogy of huddles for more, I guess, agile ways of working. So be it brainstorming ideas, solving really time-sensitive issues when you need to get onto a colleague about something, or even just catching up after the long weekend for a chat. Sometimes it's easier just to talk things through. And when we say talking things through, it's slightly different to being on a video call because it's more on the fly. So it's a really agile way of working. And what huddles are essentially a lightweight audio-first way to communicate directly within a Slack channel or a Slack in your Slack instance. And it's really a digital fast way to mimic those kind of fast and formal conversations that take place when everyone used to work in the office. It's what we call those kind of water cooler moments as such. So to distinguish huddles from a more traditional video call in a conferencing tool like Zoom, it's more lightweight. So it's for something that's kind of more agile or quick if you just want to connect with a colleague or a team member on the fly.
Awesome. Thanks, Anna. And Clips obviously was one of the other big features that we talked about a bit today. We had quite a bit of interest and conversation around Clips. Could you just clarify for everyone, where do you start a clip? And obviously we've got video and audio clips. And is it possible to record your screen in a clip? Do you need to have video there, or can you do that without video as well?
Yes, good question. So you can record your screen with the clip, and to access clips, what you do is in your Slack, in any channel or DM, under your message toolbar, you'll see a little video icon down at the bottom. If you just click that, that's where you'll have the ability to record a clip. And I find it super useful to record a clip and sometimes share my screen to talk through, for example, a presentation that I'm sending to a customer, or to just explain something to a colleague if a colleague's looking for support. It's also a great way for leadership to connect with your team on a more personal level. You can share, updates and kind of get your team across the latest of what's happening that week via video clip rather than just a static message in Slack.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Anna. A couple of questions that I think you could probably answer together that were sort of related. Someone's just saying that sometimes they're missing messages in Slack. How can they make sure that they're staying on top of messages? And another question was around staying on top of your tasks, like maybe your to-do list and actions that are coming through Slack. Could you talk a little bit around some tips and tricks for the group today as well on those ones?
Sure. I'll start with first talking a little bit about notifications in Slack. So everyone has the ability to customize their preferences when it comes to notifications in Slack. And that's a great way to kind of call out key things you want to be notified with. Maybe if it's your name is mentioned in a specific way, or certain key words are mentioned in Slack, so you can highlight certain messages. Also, a great way of doing it is when I log on to Slack in the morning, I first go to my @mentions, and that's a great way of seeing where I've been mentioned in specific messages or things that need to be drawn to my attention quite quickly. I also recommend then going through your unreads and being able to set reminders on these unreads. So hitting the remind me about this button, if it's something that you may not have time to go through in detail and you want to remind yourself to come back onto it later, and you can customize that reminder time. I think that was another question that came through. Another way of doing it is marking it as unread. So if there's something, a message that you see in channel and you want to go back in it, mark it as unread so it comes up in your unreads. And really clearing those mentions is kind of my top priority when I start my day. And then getting through the unreads, I often put reminders or save it down to my saved items if it's something I need to come back on. In terms of managing tasks, I think there's a few ways to do that with your reminders, your notifications, and also with productivity tools like the likes of Asana and Monday.com, which all integrate really well with Slack. So for example, I have my to-do list within Slack, but I also have an Asana board for some of my team projects. And I can actually create tasks directly in Slack using the Asana / command, which then update onto my Asana board. So it's a very, very quick and easy way to manage your tasks and productivity as a team directly from Slack.
Awesome. Thanks, Anna. We have been getting so many questions coming through. So Moshi, one of our other colleagues and success managers, is doing her best. We'll try and get around to as many questions as possible. Obviously, if we don't get around to every question, we'll definitely either try to come back to you offline or check out obviously our Slack website where we've got lots of help articles, etc., with lots more information. So apologies if we don't get to every question, but definitely keep them coming for the next few minutes, and we'll try and get through as many as we can. I guess, and a really good question here around Workflow Builder, is it possible to send messages to, say, like as a DM rather than a message into a channel using Workflow Builder to basically to all of our team members?
Yeah, so great question. Within Workflow Builder, you can actually customize your workflow through your steps and your triggers. So ways of doing that would be to actually send a workflow message or response directly to a person via a direct message, or else you can send it directly into a specific channel. So for example, if you're requesting information from your team and you want that sent to you via DM, you can do that. Or if you want that posted into maybe a channel that you've created for yourself and another member of the leadership team, you can also do that. So there's various ways of capturing that information from Workflow Builder. It's just a matter of customizing that when you go into Workflow Builder. And I think there was also a question around, can you, put your Workflow Builder on pause when you go on holiday if you've got a workflow notification coming into a specific channel? That's quite easy to do. All you need to do is go into your Workflow Builder edit button, and then you can actually kind of stall or pause that workflow when you are on leave, if that is something that you want to do.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Anna. We've got quite a few questions coming in, just a little bit of details around, I guess, some of the Clips features. So we might just take a couple more and then we can go ahead and wrap up. A question just around whether you can download clips from Slack, and when it comes to huddles where you can see the number of views that have been, on a, how many views, I guess, there have been for that particular clip, I guess, or message in Slack as well.
Great question. So with Clips, yes, you can download your clip. And oftentimes I do it if I want to save something, say where I go across a particular presentation or a document. So you can keep those on file, which is great. And in terms of looking at engagement on a clip, that would come down to your Slack message analytics. So you can use your Slack message analytics to track things like activity over time when it comes to, viewed or clicked and things like that, be it on the hour, the day, or 30 days. And it's a great way of tracking engagement across all sorts of messages, including those with clips. So that's something that I highly recommend doing, particularly for internal comms teams. We see it as a great advantage to them in Slack.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anna. And with that, we'll wrap up for today. We have had a few questions around people asking whether this is going to be recorded and available. Absolutely. So for the next 24 hours, this webinar will be available on demand. So if you found it useful, please feel free to share, obviously, with your colleagues if you think that it would be great for them to have a look at it as well. So you'll be able to go back to it whenever you need to, just to run through if you need a bit of a refresher. We are continuing to run more and more webinars. So last month we ran a webinar around how to build your own custom bots on Slack, which was more of a technical session for those that are, I guess, into coding on Slack, so our developers and engineering community. And next month we're going to be running a session around productivity hacks and best practices. So this is going to be going into a little bit more detail around how you can customize your Slack, how you can be more efficient in the way that you are managing things like your to-do lists, your organization, collaborating better with your teams, etc., some best practices, so a bit more of a hands-on session. And then obviously we'll continue to be rolling out more and more webinars over the coming months. So definitely continue to check them out from our website, and we'll continue to send those out as email campaigns as well. Anna, any last words from yourself before we wrap up for today?
Just want to say thank you to everyone for joining. I think it's been a really great session and really enjoy reading all of your questions. They're very engaging, and as Steph said, we'll try and get back to you, or we'll go through them all after the session. So really appreciate your input and involvement. I think it's been a great session today, and please check out our productivity webinar coming up next month. I think we'll have some great tips to reiterate some of the points I talked about today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you, Nitin. I know he's up in the sky at the moment, flying in India, and look forward to seeing you all soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks.